In 1947, as the United Nations proposed the partition of Palestine, Pakistan's founder, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, identified the move as a threat to the integrity of the Muslim world. His opposition established a baseline of ideological hostility that remains a core component of Pakistan's identity. Yet this ideological stance was secondary to the geopolitical pragmatism of the 1980s. During the Soviet-Afghan War, Pakistan engaged in high-level covert cooperation with the West and its allies. Operating through the CIA's Operation Cyclone, Pakistan's inter-services intelligence established a pipeline with Israel's Mossad. Intelligence was shared, and Israeli-captured Soviet weaponry was funneled directly to the Afghan Mujahideen through Pakistani soil. This history of material cooperation complicates Pakistan's modern strategic posture. While the state now frames Israel as an existential threat, its past operational reality shows a capacity for deep clandestine partnership. The depth of this modern framing reached a critical point in May 2025. Following a period of rapid military escalation, Pakistan's defense minister addressed the National Assembly to define the state's primary external threat. He explicitly identified Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi as a central figure in a synchronized alliance working to undermine regional stability. He then introduced a second figurehead into this accusation, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, labeling both leaders as enemies of peace. This narrative defines the Indo-Israeli nexus. It treats India's acquisition of military technology and its ideological alignment with Israel as a single fused threat to Pakistan's survival. This declaration served as a load-bearing pillar of Pakistan's statecraft throughout the 2025 crisis, directly steering a diplomatic and military outcomes that followed. Third-party defense technology acts as a destabilizing force in regional rivalries. When a nation acquires a qualitative military edge, it threatens to neutralize the bilateral nuclear parity that has historically prevented total war. This fear is anchored in the 1980s, when Pakistani intelligence believed India and Israel were planning a joint airstrike on the Qahuda nuclear facility, similar to the Israeli operation that destroyed Iraq's of Sirak reactor. Today, that clandestine support has transitioned into the open integration of Israeli electronic warfare and surveillance hardware into the Indian military. Falcon AWACS and Aerostat radars emit radar waves deep into Pakistani airspace, monitoring activity in real time. This denies the Pakistan Air Force its strategic depth. Paired with intercept arcs of anti-ballistic systems like the Arrow 2, the threat becomes existential, potentially neutralizing Pakistan's retaliatory nuclear capability. The Pakistani military establishment views the Indo-Israeli defense partnership as a material degradation of their conventional and nuclear survival capability. The technological tension reached its breaking point on April 22, 2025. A terrorist attack in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir, killed 26 tourists and ended the regional policy of strategic restraint. India responded by activating its new anti-terror doctrine. This policy refuses to distinguish between non-state militants and the state sponsors alleged to support them. This was the launch of Operation Sindoor. In a 23-minute window of precision strikes, India targeted militant infrastructure deep inside Pakistani-administered territory. Pakistan launched a symmetrical kinetic response, Operation Bunyan Amar Soos. The military blitzed Indian sectors in Jammu to forcibly restore the credibility of its deterrence. The escalation moved into the non-kinetic realm, with an action that had no regional parallel in 60 years. India suspended the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty. Weaponizing water resources shifts the conflict into a struggle for raw environmental survival, threatening the foundation of the Pakistani economy. By its conclusion, the 2025 crisis had replaced decades of bilateral restraint with a volatile new norm of rapid precision strikes and asymmetric resource warfare. Within Pakistan, the Israel card is a primary tool for political control. State officials deploy the narrative of a foreign nexus to enforce unity and suppress internal criticism. Domestic opposition leaders are frequently accused of being part of this foreign conspiracy. By labeling critics as agents of a Zionist Hindu nexus, the state effectively removes them from the legitimate political arena. This top-down rhetoric filters into militant doctrine. A flowchart maps state narratives transferring to proxy organizations and religious schools. This new syllabus identifies the nexus as a religious enemy integrating women and youth into proxy networks under the cover of social organizations. This creates a feedback trap, a populist condition to view the conflict in existential, theological terms, will see any future diplomatic compromise as an act of treason. By radicalizing its domestic base against the nexus, the Pakistani government structurally eliminated its own ability to de-escalate regional crises. The active hostilities paused on May 10th following intense global intervention. The ceasefire was the result of external pressure, rather than a mutual bilateral agreement between the two states. This escalation effectively ended the 1972 Shimla Agreement. The document that once governed bilateral relations is now functionally obsolete. The precedent for this shift was set in 2024 when Iran struck militants inside Pakistan. India's 2025 operations adopted this same model, demonstrating that Pakistani sovereignty is no longer viewed as inviolable by its neighbors. Bilateralism in South Asia has collapsed. Border conflicts are now inextricably linked to the technology, actors, and ideologies of the Middle East. The regional balance now rests on a volatile collision: high-tech military hardware meeting entrenched, ideologically driven proxy forces. Advanced surveillance and precision strike capabilities drastically compress the decision-making window for leadership. During a crisis, the time to respond is reduced to minutes. This compression lowers the threshold for the use of full-spectrum deterrence. In an environment of limited information and rapid strikes, the move to tactical nuclear weapons becomes more likely. This is the danger of the nexus narrative. By viewing a border dispute through an existential, pan-Islamic lens, the state removes the off-ramps necessary for de-escalation. In a geopolitical ecosystem where compromise is equated with theological surrender, the next South Asian crisis risks bypassing conventional warfare entirely.